Okay. Which season?
Yeah.
All right, we'll call to order the Planning Commission meeting for City of Oregon City, Monday, March 13th, 2023. Call the roll, please.
Chair Stoll.
Present.
Vice Chair Schlagenhofer.
Here.
Commissioner West.
Here.
Commissioner LaSalle.
Here.
Commissioner Staggs.
Here.
Commissioner Laws.
Here.
Commissioner Espy.
Here.
All right, first item is public comments. It looks like we have one. Mr. Holthouse, you have 3 minutes.
Okay. My name is Andy Holthouse. I've lived here since June of 96 on Hazel Grove Drive in the Hazel Grove subdivision, south of Partlow. And we've really enjoyed living here. My wife and I love Oregon City. It's a very well-planned city, and the Parks and Rec are incredible. And but anyway, my concern is with public housing for low-income housing. I really would like to see, if possible, now I know you're under state guidelines and all that, laws and stuff to increase density because of the urban growth boundary and all. But I would really like to see more single-family homes than duplexes, quadplexes, all that stuff, all the apartments, condos. I really think people, especially families, are happier living in single-family dwellings, even if they're on small lots. If they're small houses on small lots. I was born and raised in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I remember back in the late 1960s when, due to the baby boom, there were a lot of people looking for housing, and they were looking for inexpensive housing, and people really wanted single-family homes to raise their families in. So what they did, now, of course, they didn't have an urban growth boundary in those days. It was wide open. But they would set aside developments for what they called tract homes. And these tract homes were, everyone was pretty much the same. They'd change the floor plan or the doorway a little bit, but they were single-family homes, and each one had a one-car garage, single-car driveway, a front yard, a backyard, and I'm not sure whether the state or who subsidized the purchase of those. There were a lot of young couples, and I had a friend who got married at a very young age in high school, in fact, and had a baby right away. His wife had a baby right away. And they didn't want to live in an apartment, and they heard about this program, and it was great. And I don't know if there's anything in Oregon that could possibly be done about something like that, but I don't care much for multifamily housing, because I really think you get a lot of transient people in and out, and it's just the closest multifamily housing to us, thankfully, is about half a mile away over on South End Road, and then of course we have the apartments up over here, but that's far enough away. We don't have any problems or anything, but apartments, rentals, condos aren't so bad, but rentals, I guess for starter or something, that's okay, but when you get a family, you really need single-family dwellings. So that's basically what I wanted to. Anybody have any questions? I'm glad to answer.
Well, yeah, thank you. State's pretty much prohibited it, so that's pretty much where we're at. All right, move on to the public hearing. Unless anyone wants to correct me on that, that's pretty much what, yeah, okay.
Well, can I just say one thing?
Yeah, please.
It's not really a correction, but I got to take these off, sorry. The state hasn't prohibited single family. They've just said you don't have to do you can do multifamily on that property.
Yeah,
So anybody can, you can do a single-family development of tract homes today, but you could also build cottages on that same property. And I'm not necessarily solely a cottage home advocate, but I think it's interesting that cottage homes are kind of similar to they're like a single-family home, but I bet those homes in Oklahoma were probably about 1,000 square feet, plus or minus.
Yeah, 800 to 1,000.
Yeah, so that's a cottage home here that we're talking about in Oregon, and they're more affordable-ish because they're smaller and they sell for less. So cottage homes are actually a pretty neat middle ground between a single-family home on its own property and, say, an apartment building. So it could be the thing that would be that would make you happy as a citizen of Oregon City.
Yeah. Anything where you don't share walls. I'm done with that, man. Apartments, the last time I lived in an apartment was about 1979. Never again.
All right, well, thank you for coming. We'll move on to the public hearing. This will be GLUA 22-00. I'm sorry. Do we have anyone online that wishes to comment?
Thank you.
No,
Okay.
we do not.
GLUA 22-0002, LEG 22-0001, House Bill 2001, version 1, Housing Choice Code update. I'm going to go ahead and read the legislative script. Public hearing on a legislative application is scheduled for tonight. Our role is to conduct the public hearing and to make decisions about the matter before us. In making those decisions, we must apply the applicable codes and laws and cannot vary from or change those codes or laws or codes. Legislative actions involve the adoption or amendment of the city's land use regulations, comprehensive plan, maps, inventories, and other policy documents that affect the entire city or large portions of it. Legislative actions which affect land use shall begin with a public hearing before the Planning Commission. A staff report has been prepared for each application and has been made available to the public 7 days before the first public hearing. The staff report identifies the approval criteria that apply to each applicant's proposal. Staff has analyzed the criteria which are contained in the staff report. Upon a recommendation from the Planning Commission on a legislative action, the City Commission shall hold at least one public hearing on the proposal. Any interested person may provide written or oral testimony on the proposal at or prior to the hearing. At the conclusion of the hearing, the City Commission may adopt, modify, or reject the legislative proposal, or it may remand the matter to the Planning Commission for further consideration. If the decision is to adopt at least some form of the proposal and thereby amend the city's land use regulations, comprehensive plan, official zoning maps, or some component of any of these documents, the City Commission decision shall be enacted as an ordinance. Public testimony will be called on in the order it was requested in advance of the meeting. If you have not emailed city staff at planning@orcity.org to request to speak and would like to testify, please raise your virtual or physical hand when I ask if there are others in the audience who would like to participate. For the public record, please begin all testimony stating your name and name and city of residence. If you would like to receive a copy of the notice of decision, please state your mailing address or email address. Testimony and evidence should be directed toward the applicable approval criteria. If you believe other criteria apply in addition to those addressed in the staff report, identify and discuss those criteria and explain how and why you believe they apply to the application under consideration. Any person may submit written material while the public record is open on each application. Any written materials received by the city staff during the time period in which the record is open will be placed in the record. Written materials submitted during the public hearing must be presented to the city staff in order to become part of the record. If a person intends for PowerPoint presentations, reports, pictures, or other exhibits used in their oral testimony to be placed in the record, copies must be submitted to the city staff while the record is open. If they are not given to staff, they will not be included in the record. Any person wishing a continuance to present additional evidence and testimony or to keep the record open to respond to new evidence must make that request before the public testimony portion of the initial hearing is closed. I will now ask each commissioner if they have any conflicts of interest. Commissioner LaSalle.
No expert.
All right. Commissioner Staggs.
No, I have none.
Commissioner Vice Chair Schlagenhofer.
No conflicts of interest.
Commissioner West.
No conflicts of interest.
Commissioner Laws.
No conflicts of interest.
And Commissioner Espy.
No conflicts.
And I also have no conflicts. Leave, who has, one of you,
Christina Robinson Gardner
Mr.
will
Robinson Gardner.
give the staff presentation.
Thank you, Chair Stoll, Commissioners. This evening is intended for two purposes. One, to provide a recap of the conversation that the Planning Commission had with the City Commission at the joint work session last week. I have the table that I've added to the staff commission report in your packet, and we'll bring that up. And secondly, this evening, we will close the record for legislative file 22-002. So we've concluded the middle housing process, package 2. The technical amendments go to the second reading tomorrow in front of the City Commission, and any work plan, any of these policy items will be pursued through a future legislative process if it is able to make its way through that. And so what I'd like to do, if there's a way to make it a little bit bigger, I'll just provide a quick recap of what I believe was the direction from the City Commission last week. The next steps is to create a work plan. Most likely, both Aquila and myself will go back to the City Commission to look at prioritization because they didn't provide a level of priority at our conversation last week, as well as looking to see a general overview of the work plan approach, and then we'll bring it back to the Planning Commission to work out the details. The first of the policy items that were reviewed was the land use affordability incentives. This is looking at incentives through the land use code, like lot coverage, height, density, things like that, to support affordable housing. I think what the City Commission discuss along came the same lines as the Planning Commission is how do we ensure that these units stay affordable and for how long. In talking with other jurisdictions and just with Kelly Reed at DLCD, what's great is we get to learn what other cities are doing and see kind of what approaches they may have, and that may be some of the pieces of the work plan that will come back to you. We heard yes from the City Commission, investigate this topic further. Once again, no priorities were given of any of the policy options, and then we will continue to wrestle with these additional questions as we work on the work plan. The second item was tiny homes or tiny homes on wheels and recreational vehicles. We heard from the City Commission, yes, further investigate this topic for tiny homes or tiny homes on wheel, and did not hear a majority support for investigating further RVs as part of the policy question. The third was micro-shelters. Should the city create a work plan to investigate allowing micro-shelter villages or transitional housing, looking at City of Corvallis or City of Salem as a guide? But we did hear yes for further investigate this topic, and I think a lot of additional thought will be put into the work plan. Finally, the last two, multiple accessory dwelling units per lot. We did not hear consensus to investigate this policy topic further. System development fees. The City Commission is going to be having a larger, more comprehensive system development fee conversation, and they wanted to wrap the topic of smaller units, system development fees into that conversation. So that in the table I have is kind of what I heard from the work session discussion. I think really at this point, let me know if you have any questions, and then this can be a time to provide conversation and recap from the Planning Commission level.
All right. Anyone have any questions or comments or anything you want to discuss about this? Commissioner Schlangenhofer.
Okay, I know we don't know a lot about tiny homes yet, but since RVs seem dead, let's go with tiny homes. Is there I'm trying to remember, would the tiny homes be something where you own the land, or would it be more of a temporary thing where put the tiny home in a space, they take the wheels off, it's 6 months tenure, and then you gotta leave again, or could you live there for many years?
I think it could be a lot of different tenure options. Tiny homes on wheels could be in like a manufactured home park setting, where you approve the park, but you come in and out. You're still hooking up to system development fee, you're hooking up to city utilities. The system development fee question is still out there. It could also be allowing an additional hookup on a private property or multiple tiny homes kind of in a cluster. So there could be different opportunities. I think that's what the work plan kind of look at. What do we allow today? What could we allow? What are other jurisdictions doing? How do these affect system development fees and affordability? And what are the long-term impacts that may happen to the city? So those are those conversations. I think reaching out to other communities that kind of looked at tiny homes. There's one thing to say, yes, you can have it and stay silent as a city. The other was to say, we really think that this could be a product that could provide affordable or more affordable housing in the city. There might be variations of how much the city wants to do more than just allow it.
Okay. And then another thing I was wondering is, would there be absolute minimums and maximums for their size, or could somebody buy it? Let's say we said, okay, in some situations you could actually own the land and you can own the tiny home. Would we put a limit on the tiny home, or could somebody then apply for a permit to add on 500 square feet to the thing?
Well, tiny homes that are on a chassis are a little bit different than tiny homes that are taken off the chassis, so those are different variations. At some point they do intersect with our middle housing code, so kind of when things get big enough, do you just start calling them, a piece of a cluster housing, or is it just a standalone, like a detached duplex? So those are all things that we could look at as options. I think we'll have a lot to learn. Other communities have looked at it, and some have walked away and not changed their code. Some have changed their code. Some are still thinking about changing their code. So talking to the building codes department and our building official, there's going to be a lot of information gathering. And one thing I think that might be helpful, knowing that we don't have consultants for this and we have a finite amount of staff, it could be, here's some information we've found out. Let's stop. Have a discussion. What else do you need to see? Or now that you've heard this information, is there additional direction you want to give? There may be some, keep circling back to make sure that we're spending time and energy on the priorities of the City and Planning Commission.
Okay, all right, excellent. Thank you.
Commissioner Staggs.
Yeah, my understanding from the joint work session was that we were in fact going to look at multiple ADUs per lot as a further discussion. Did I not hear that correctly?
I didn't get consensus on that. So when I recapped with the group who was there about what we heard, I did not hear that there was consensus to move forward. I also didn't hear there was consensus not to move forward. So in this case, kind of a lack of action means we're not going to do anything at this point in time. We're not necessarily going to remove it from the list of topics to explore, but it'll be lower on the priority list.
Yeah, I'm thinking of a particular moment during the discussion where I believe it was Denise McGriff made a comment, and then a couple of other council members made comments that it was something that we would be open to looking into. But I have to go back and watch the video for sure. But my understanding was that we wanted to explore that further. I don't know, did any other commissioners hear that too, or?
I don't remember if the consensus was let's look into it further or not. I know there were a couple commissioners weren't big fans of it, but I don't know if they were the majority.
Yeah. I mean, in the beginning, I heard a couple of commissioners say they definitely did not want to look into it. And then after we had a conversation about it, there was kind of a change of heart.
Right, because they were actually, multiple ADUs are not that much different than detached fourplexes. They're four structures, they're just, maybe they're a little further apart. I mean, they're not that much different, so if we're going to allow one.
Right.
Didn't seem like they were that much different than the other. And sometimes giving people more options, and the one I brought up, I mistakenly brought up historic homes. No, they're protected. But it does encourage an existing home to be preserved. because you can add 3 more without, having to knock it down to build a 4-place. So that was my input. I'm not sure if that made a difference or not, but that's the conversation I remember.
What I'd like to suggest is that we clarify that and make sure, because I think it's worth exploring more, but.
Yeah.
I'll clarify with the city manager to see what his understanding was.
Sounds good. Anything else? Commissioner Staggs? Good?
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner LaSalle?
I tried to watch that on the TV, but I don't recall, was there much discussion about manufactured home parks?
Ursula?
Is there a code that governs manufactured homes, parks? What code is that?
You asked, I can find it, but we have zoning that allows it. We have existing ones. Are you asking about if one wanted to build a new one? Let me take a look while we talk.
Okay.
Commissioner Stolkenhofer?
I'm going to speak from personal experience, not from anything that the city's discussed, but my personal experience with manufactured home parks is that lot leases have gone way up. So before something that was reasonably affordable, a $40,000 manufactured home now has a $600 a month lot lease, which kind of kills the affordability of it. So if the city was in some way capable of maybe subsidizing that, making it cheaper to lease a spot, I think they could have some, they could have a place in the future, but because of the value of land and then the taxes that the property owners have to pay, unless we do something about that, I think that's what's killing manufactured home parks.
And 600 is the low end. It can be up above $800 a month just for land. And you hope you have that manufactured home paid off, or you're not having to pay rent on that as well.
Oh, real quickly, so the R3.5 zone, I'm just checking, I know does allow manufactured home parks as a permitted use. I haven't checked the other zones, but so I'm sure medium density residential definitely does. We have some design standards in Chapter 1720, which is where ADU design standards, live, work, and manufactured home park standards are. We haven't had a new one for many, many decades, so if someone wanted to propose one, we know it's permitted, and we have some direction, so we would kind of work within our existing standards to provide probably a type 2 process for them to build.
I would like to see in the future more discussion about it and more innovation. I know of a few families who first time buying could only afford because, the value of manufactured homes have actually gone up if you're wanting to do sweat equity to renovate it because it's the only affordable thing some can buy, or, buy one and then you lease the land. But what's interesting about it is, a lot of them, if they don't have the right management, they look more run down or, but there's parts of them in Morgan City that, is still pretty desirable. So it'd be interesting to look at that in the future to a degree, or entertain innovation, especially with tiny homes we were talking about as well.
Mm-hmm. Manufactured homes are allowed anywhere where single-family homes are. So if you have a lot of record, you could put a manufactured home park on private property. Manufactured home, excuse me. Manufactured home parks, that's exactly it. The land available, and then what's the highest and best use for private development. That is a hard conversation since we haven't seen any. And it is a permitted use. So there is definitely something in the market that does not want to choose that one over the other options.
Commissioner Staggs?
Well, just a follow-up comment. I suspect that one of the reasons is because a mobile home is not an appreciable asset. It doesn't increase in value typically, so yeah. But the other thing I wanted to say is, can I suggest that we keep the legislative file open until we clarify on the multiple ADUs per question? Would that be a problem?
You can suggest it. That would be, I suppose, up to your fellow commissioners.
I think it's important enough that we don't just let that kind of fizzle out and go away before I mean, that's a big deal. Multiple ADUs, I think, per lot is a big discussion. And my recollection was that we wanted to further look into that.
I'm not certain that we can't add that on as part of a work plan. I think we could still close out the public hearing portion and conclude this. And as we bring back more information about the work plan for these other items, we can bring that piece back as well. In my mind, it was not off the table to look at. It was just kind of put into a purgatory, if you will, until there was more clarification. So we could still close it up, and as we bring back the work plan, identify where that multiple ADU per lot fits in.
Yeah, none of these policy items were ever intended to be part of HB 2001 because it really is, the next Banniam work plan, and there'll be more public outreach, and there'll be more, it's more than just this House Bill 2001. And so I think with these last policy questions, knowing that really it'll take a new effort, that means a new legislative file should be created.
I'm sorry, can you say that again a little bit louder?
Sure.
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think the way to think about it is in the the spring of 2022, a postcard was mailed to folks talking about House Bill 2001 and middle housing, and we went through hearings, and in a sense, we're continuing that file, but we haven't really gone back out to the community with these additional work plan items. And so with the conclusion of this file, we'll get direction, we'll do some work sessions and outreach, and at some point we'll create a new legislative file, and we'll send out a new postcard to the community with, here's these next items, this is what it entails, this is how you can be involved in the public hearing process.
So, Ms. Robertson-Gardner, are you suggesting then to close the record and then we relook at this, close the record, send out a postcard with where we're at now?
No, with these items, these policy items are for future work plans, which would then potentially turn into future public hearings, but that could be 6 months to 1 year from now. And so really, it should be involved in a brand-new legislative file and a brand-new notice, rather than kind of keeping on the shirt tails of the old HB 2001 notice.
Okay, thank you.
Would that be the same for all the other items on this list?
Yeah, most likely, this is how I generally understand the next steps, is there'll be a work plan, there'll be information gathering, we'll reach back to the Planning Commission, City Commission about, okay, you've heard this, do you want to keep going, or do you want to provide additional direction? And at some point, there'll be some public outreach on specific questions. At a point, there'll be actual direction on these items we want to move forward to for a public hearing, and then the public hearings process will happen on a package of the policy items that may turn into code.
All right, any other questions or discussion?
Yes.
No, Commissioner Schlagenhofer.
I'm sorry, I just can't stop bringing things up. I wanted to touch on the comment that we had from the gentleman, I believe his name was Mr. Holthouse, and his opinion on owning a home. I think owning a home, I don't think that's a dead idea. I know the state really wants us to, pursue multifamily or higher density as much as possible, but I think it's not bad to encourage development that still gives people a way to buy something. Even if it's tiny, narrow, short, tall, odd looking, I think there's still something to buying a home. Even if you're buying a mobile home and leasing the land, you might be able to sell it and make 10 grand. But that's more of the American dream than renting forever. And so I don't think his opinion is that unique or rare. I think that's a big dream for most people. So I think as much as we can do to still allow that, encourage that, I think we could probably do that and still meet the state guidelines or, the direction that they're trying to push us into. So as much as we can do to still encourage developers to try to find ways to make people homeowners, I think we're still on a good path. And that's it. I think I'm done. Thank you.
All right, anyone else? All right, well, we need a motion to close the file or to continue it and seconds and all that, so.
I lost track. Do we need to do something special with the, we're keeping the record open? Are we going to be closing the record?
That's whatever motion you want to make, and then we'll vote on it. So I'm not sure what the pleasure of the commission is.
Ms. Robertson Gardner gave us direction on a way we could, I believe it was, close the record?
Well, that's staff recommendation. It sounds like there's two competing potential ideas on the Planning Commission board. So I think what Commissioner Stoll is asking, if there is somebody who wants to make a motion to continue the legislative file, we can see where that stands, if there's a majority, or someone can make a motion on closing the file and to see if there's a majority. So both options are on the table, it sounds like.
Okay, well, I would make the motion to close the file as long as we don't end the ability to readdress the multiple ADUs. Okay.
Second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All right, call the vote, please.
All right, Chair Stoll,
Aye.
Vice Chair Schlagenhofer,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner LaSalle,
Aye.
Commissioner Staggs,
Aye.
Commissioner Laws,
Aye.
Commissioner Espy.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Oh, sorry. All right, moving on to item 2, approval of minutes, past meeting minutes. I think we're waiting for staff to
Oh, sorry.
give a report.
I do not have a staff report or
all right.
presentation on this.
Fair enough.
This is kind of a continuation from last time of trying to get caught up with minutes approval.
Okay. Do we have any discussion or a motion? Commissioner Schlagen. Commissioner LaSalle.
I again questioned the number of minutes because many of them were also already on the city website as approved. However, I was informed that many of those minutes that we are going to be discussing tonight actually had not been approved. So that's why they're on our list. Just to clarify that the long list that has never been approved.
Okay, I'm looking at the bottom of the one from November 10th, 2008, and at the bottom it says 2008 approved minutes. So were they approved or they weren't technically approved?
That's what I was, that's what it says, but I was told that
They were not
they were
officially
not
approved.
approved.
Okay.
So whoever is doing the audits dug into it, I guess,
Found that they were not-
sufficiently to find out that they truly were not approved.
Okay.
I
list.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we approve them tonight then. And I would like to approve all of them in one swoop here. I don't know how to make the motion. Do I have to list each number out?
I don't.
November 10th, 2008, January 25th, 2010, October 11th, 2010, June 25, 2012, July 9th, 2012, July 23rd, 2013, January 14th, 2013, January 28th, 2013, February 11th, 2013, February 25th, 2013, and then most recently, February 28th, 22.
We have a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion before we vote?
Yes.
Okay.
I have issues with the Monday, February 28th, 2022 minutes. Looking at the ones that we used to get from, looks like they were written by Laura Butler at the time. I imagine that may have turned into Laura Turway. They were detailed, organized, they said a lot. You could read these and it was like you were in a meeting. I'm looking at the one from February 28th and it says basically nothing. It's a 3-hour meeting and it says, well, okay, there's the introduction. I'm going to read it just so if the record shows what I'm talking about. Aquila Hurd-Ravitch, Community Development Director, discussed comprehensive plan streamlining, understanding equity in the context of planning, and comp plan application during land use reviews. She reviewed the draft goals and policies with the Commission along with Sarah Breakstone from OTAC. And then it says the Commission made suggestions for changes to the goals and policies. And that was 3 hours, and that's what we got out of 3 hours. It doesn't say who said what. It doesn't say much of anything besides what, what staff did. So there's no discussion from the Commission, so I would recommend we do not approve those and we ask them to be improved.
Okay. What's your motion?
I could amend my motion to eliminate the February 28th, 22 meetings, and we'll approve all of them aside from that.
Okay. You amend your second?
Well, I had a question.
Go for it.
What happens when minutes are not approved today by us? Do they have to be investigated, rewritten?
I didn't think that through.
Huh?
I didn't think that through.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure where it goes from here.
Well, I
Right.
think it sounds like there's a question to ask if they can be improved. So if they're not approved tonight, then I will go back to the city recorder and say, these were not approved for this reason. What type of resolution?
Okay.
Or a better term, given the context, what type of solution is there based on the reason that they were not approved? And we'll go from there.
I'll second it.
Okay. Commissioner LaSalle.
I have a feeling that I do not want to approve the minutes because of Commissioner Schwalgenhofer's example. That's terrible that they try to put that as minutes. Just a statement, it's not minutes at all. I'm not going to vote for approval of any of the minutes until they get this done right.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I just have a question for staff. Have you guys talked about doing action minutes? Instead of writing verbatim the entire meeting for 3 hours, just summarizing the outcome, which is maybe what I thought maybe you guys were attempting to do here?
I think that was the attempt, and I need to go back and talk with the city recorder about what the direction was.
I know how busy you all are, and I know how much that takes, because I do minutes, and I know it takes a lot, so I'm not sure what you guys...
So the minutes are actually, contracted out. So we have a person on contract who watches the video and then turns them into minutes. And so the earlier ones that had Laura Butler's name on it, I'm not sure if she did the minutes or if somebody else did it, and then she kind of presented it to the Planning Commission. And so at this point, I don't know if that person received different direction from the city recorder to go from kind of the verbatim to the more summary minutes. I am more accustomed to seeing the summary minutes, but rather than the more detailed verbatim minutes.
For whatever it's worth, I'm okay with that too, but I'll leave that to the commission's pleasure.
All right, any further discussion on the motion? All right, call the vote, please.
Chair Stoll,
Aye.
Vice Chair Schlagenhofer,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner LaSalle,
No.
Commissioner Staggs,
Aye.
Commissioner Laws,
Aye.
Commissioner Espy.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Moving on to communications.
I do, whoops, let me get closer. I don't have any specific communications. Right now, we don't have any agenda items for March 27th, so we will not have a meeting that night. We most likely will have our April meetings, which I can't remember the dates off the top of my head, but it's the second and fourth Monday of every month. And then I guess I wanted to circle back a little bit to the housing policies. As Kelly mentioned, and I think you heard Thea say, there is this 60-day legislative package, which basically means they're trying to pass some bills before the end of the session, but 60 days into the session. And so that is scheduled to be done mid-March, which we're in mid-March. So I'm expecting to see some outcome fairly soon. So I think by the time we come back with this work plan around the housing options, we'll have a better sense of direction, I hope. I should clarify that. We'll have some ideas of what we may be needing to talk about or look at. So we may get back to you a little bit later than originally anticipated so that we can try to incorporate what we're learning from that legislation. But so there's that piece. And I know that Commissioner West had a communication item, so we're going to pull something up and maybe, if that's okay with you, Chair, kick it over to her.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I just, I wanted to let everyone know, the public, as well as our planning commission, that you'll have an opportunity to hear the mayor speak for the State of the City address on Thursday afternoon at 4:30. Also, Tim Cook, the president of the community college here at Clackamas, is going to speak, and the superintendent of the Oregon City School District, so you'd have an opportunity to hear what leadership is planning and doing in Oregon City. So this talk, it also has an option for a dinner. It's being held at the Tumwater Ballroom, which is in the end of the Oregon Trail Center in Oregon City. Tickets can be bought through the chamber. It's free if you just want to come listen, and it's $30 if you want to have dinner. So hope to see you there.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Schlagenhofer.
Commissioner West, I'm not sure if you know the agenda for tonight, but if someone wasn't having dinner, when would they show up?
4:30.
What time is dinner?
No.
I mean, do
I
the people not eating dinner, do they have to watch the people eat dinner, or?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right, any other communications? Commissioner Laws?
It's going to be replayed on YouTube as well, right?
I don't know that. It's Chamber of Commerce in Oregon City that's doing it. More than likely, it will be taped.
Okay. Any other communications? All right, I have one short one. The city's YouTube channel, well, two actually. One, they've been posting the videos of meetings from all the way back in 2008, and it's the thumbnails are just golden. It's staff that, 15 years ago. It's great. Secondly, they posted a video titled Development 101 that I watched today. It's about 20 minutes long, and we've talked about the type 1, 2, 3, 4, our portion of the development process, and that video goes over the whole thing, start to finish, engineering, planning, building the whole thing. So highly recommend to watch it if you have a free 20 minutes. And that's all I have.
I just sent the link to your emails, your city emails, so.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and we are adjourned.